Lockdown Part 2, the sequel nobody asked for and nobody wanted. How to survive and stay positive. This is the Lifecraft Co channel. Here we are facing another level of restriction, possibly lockdown. People are talking about it, throwing it around, back and forth. Nobody wants to go back to those things, but even if we don't enter a lockdown, I just want to talk to you a little bit about how to get through times like these. I don't for a second profess to be all-seeing and all-knowing on this matter. I've not lived through any wars on my doorstep or any major hardships, but I do know that mentality is everything in these moments. The way we think about our situation and circumstance can really help us thrive and go forward in these times, or it can hinder us. In reading up on prisoners of war, one thing that they all have in common, those that make it through those moments, they say that the hopeful, the optimistic people tend to struggle the most. And the reason being that they think, okay, in 6 months' time, in a year's time, I'm going to be rescued, I'm going to be out of this situation. And what happens when the thing they hope for isn't realized or doesn't come to take place? They lose their hope, they lose their determination. But for those of them that recognize their situation is difficult, horrific, and they may never get out of it, actually did better mentally in the long run. And I think one of the reasons is when you resign yourself to this is the best it's going to be for a while, there's a level of grit and resilience that comes with that mentality. For instance, if you said to yourself back in March, oh, this whole kind of lockdown stuff, it's going to be over in a month, done and dusted, you might, and maybe you'll relate to this, find yourself a month later when that doesn't happen, feeling more fatigued, more tired, more disheartened. But right at the beginning, when all of this started, I said to myself, this is going to be a year. I'm preparing mentally for a year and a year and a half. And I really do think that's helped me during this time. I've been frustrated immensely. I found myself bouncing off the walls, getting frustrated at government announcements and everything in between. But knowing in my head and making that decision, this is going to be a long haul game, this is a marathon, I think has really helped me in many ways. I've probably been less frustrated than if I said to myself, this is going to be a 1 month process. Now, hear me right, I'm not saying you shouldn't be optimistic, I'm not saying you shouldn't be hopeful during this time. All I'm saying is that you need to prepare yourself mentally for this to be a marathon. Maybe it clears up in a couple of months, maybe there's a vaccine, maybe there's not, maybe you think it's real, maybe you think it's not. Whatever it is, you're in the middle of a circumstance that is happening to you and many things that are outside of your control. You cannot control the events going on in the world around you, but you can control this. You can control your heart and your mind. And so I would suggest to you the best thing you can do. I'm going to respond in the best way that I can, but also I'm going to be a little bit cynical of this disappearing overnight, of this being an issue that we're taken out of immediately. I think if you can hold those two things in tension, that you hope for the best, but you plan for the worst, you set yourself up to be more resilient than if you didn't do any of those things. And the danger is this, you turn on the news and you get fatigued and tired and scared to death because sensational headlines are the things that hit you the most. But this really is a marathon. I'd suggest tapping in to a couple of news sources that you trust, that are reliable, that are reputable and not as sensational, a little more fact-grounded, and then avoid listening to the news for the rest of the day. Focus on being constructive and keeping a positive mentality, but also remind yourself that this is a marathon, that this is a long haul thing. And reside within yourself, this might be another year, who knows? And hopefully it won't be, it probably won't be, but if you start to tell yourself that this is longer than it's actually going to be, you're prepared to tackle it head on, you're prepared to have a bit of grit and determination to carry you through this season, whatever this season is. Face the situation around you, face your circumstance, look it in the eye and tell it you're not afraid of it, that you can stand strong through this, you can move through this, you can come through this. This isn't a hype, this isn't geeing you up, this is simply taking you to a place mentally where you're prepared to tackle your circumstance head on, not bury your head in the sand, but be optimistic for the future, but also plan for the worst as well. Marathon mentality with a sense of optimism and pride. You can get through this, you will get through this. You'll be telling your grandkids, you'll be telling your friends' grandkids whoever in years time what it was like to live through this weird time, whether it's lockdown 2 or not down, or you're not locked down 2, but finding that there's a little bit of restriction placed on us, finding that things are happening outside of our control. You can move through this season and you can learn something from it as well. There's an opportunity in the middle of this weird changing time, and you can find it if you dig deep. Stay strong. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Ciao.